So I want to talk to you a little bit about Purview. Purview is this giant regulatory. It's for data compliance. What? What? I'm doing stuff. Yes, I'm working. Yeah. All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Wheatstraw. You're here. You're ready. Today we're going to get ready to take this MS900 exam. It's about 45 questions in an hour, as usual. It's not that hard. I didn't struggle that bad. I don't think you will either, especially after this CRAM. Remember, one cool thing about this exam is that this certification is permanent. It's a fundamental levels exam, so that means it's you're going to have it on your resume always. Also, this exam, this certification is going to be sunset, I believe, in March 2026. So after a while, it'll start to be fewer and fewer people who have this exam, this certification. So you'll be able to distinguish yourself a bit more on your resume with this MS900 exam. So let's do this. We got this. You got this. Play the music. The biggest part of this exam where you can get the most questions right, I believe, is in the licensing. There's going to be a lot of questions about licensing. I saw at least in my 45 questions I had, definitely 10 or 12 of them is focused specifically on licensing models. And so, you got the different licensing models. I'm going to talk about a lot here. So just hang with me and you don't need to write it down. We're cramming here. You got this. Come on. So the licensing models, you got per user, per month models. You have, or you can go get licensed through a cloud service, cloud solution provider. Those are the folks that you can go to. They're a partner with Microsoft. So they can help you manage billing, support, and your tenant configurations. You can go the next step and get an enterprise level agreement. That's for large organizations when you need lots of licensing, and they have 3-year cycles, and or can do annual billing, and there are different pricing things that come with that. Just remember that the longer you lock in for, the less it can cost. So the M365, the business plan. So you have the business basic, the standard, and the premium. They scale up each time. So the smallest business basic is for small to medium businesses. That in enterprise level plans, you have the E1, E3, and E5. Again, they each scale up, get bigger and bigger. And that's when the E3, E5 when you start to see the advanced compliance, security, and analytics stuff. So definitely, when you start seeing Defender, think about E5, those enterprise level bigger plans. That's when you start to get the Defender stuff. So you'll get questions like, what level licensor do you need to get Defender? Defender, generally it's the highest one. So just remember that part. Education plans, that's the A1, A3, and A5. Those are education plans. Those are tailored for schools and universities. You got other plans like those frontline workers plans. So you got the F1 and the F3. Those are for frontline workers. And you got the governmental plans. That's G1 and that's G3 and G5. So about those plans, business basic, you have in the basic you get web and mobile versions of app Office. That's like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and that you get the Microsoft Teams for chat, for meetings and collaboration. So remember that's in business basic. Business standard, you get everything in business basic, plus you get desktop versions of those Office apps, and then you get the ability to install those Office apps on a limited number of PCs and Macs and tablets and phones. And then you get email, Teams, OneDrive, all that kind of stuff. Premium, again, we're leveling up. It's everything in business standard, and so you get those advanced security features. Remember, that's when you start the premiums, where you start to see the Defender for Office 365, device management with Intune, the information protection, conditional access, things like that. So with the M365 Enterprise plan, so we got the E1, you get the web-based Office apps. That's what you get for that. For everything in E3, you got everything in E1. That's when you get the full desktop Office apps. You get to install it on multiple devices, and you get those hardcore compliance tool like the e-discovery. You'll see that in the litigation hold. You'll see that. You'll get the advanced information protection, the some device management, and you'll get some Windows Enterprise licenses included. And so the last one, the E5, that's everything in E3. Then you get the Defender on top of that advanced threat protection, the lockbox. You'll get that when you're doing support, and you can decide how much you want to show to a support engineer if you have compliance measures you have to be responsible for. So then you get all sorts of the analytics stuff, and that's when you start leveling up. So that's the E5. That's the really fancy one. In general, generally, when I've seen it, they're asking about that. Usually it's the E5. I know it sounds stupid, but you just guess E5. If you got to guess something, guess E5. So then you got those are for frontline workers. That's the F1 and the F3. It's basically, a stripped down version, basically made mostly for mobile devices who want to use Teams and chat for video meetings. It's very low cost. That's F1. F3, you get some F3, that's everything in F1. You get some web and office apps. You get some installation of those office apps, but not very much. Again, this is for frontline workers, meant for mobile devices mostly. So, when you think about the plans, the business plans, basic is web apps only. Standard is you get the desktops and the premium features. And then when you get to that premium level, the standard, you get desktop apps. Like I said, you get desktop apps. But when you get to that premium level, that's when you start to add the security and those analytics. So same with enterprise. You scale up from E1, web apps. Then you get desktops and compliant apps in E3. And then you get that E5. That's when you start to see the Defender and that advanced security. Frontline plans, stripped down for everything. Mainly, remember, mobile and desktop mobile devices that use Teams, things like that. So remember, licensing, you can get 15 questions right real fast on that. Let's go. There were several productivity apps that I saw a lot from on the MS900 exam. So that's the Microsoft Project, Microsoft Planner, Microsoft Bookings, Microsoft Forms, Microsoft List, and Microsoft To Do. So Microsoft Project is a project management tool. It's the big one. It tracks work. It supports charts and task dependencies and allocations, resource allocation. It's really big. Microsoft Project. Microsoft Planner is kind of smaller. It does a lot of similar things, but it integrates with Teams. And so it's more of it's Microsoft Project, but a little more simple. So it's in the M365 business and the enterprise plans. Nothing is in the basic ones. Anyway, you don't have to worry about that right now. So Microsoft Bookings, it's basically a scheduling tool, and it does appointments, things like that. So you can put it in calendars. You can reserve slots. Like if you have a engineer who needs to, or an engineer or HVAC technician that is going to work at this particular location on this day, you'd use Microsoft Bookings for that. Microsoft Forms, think about surveys, think about quizzes, things like that. So it creates those polls. That's what Microsoft Forms does. And it can export that data to Excel, things like that. So, if you take an exam, or if you have an activity or a meeting and you're looking for feedback on that meeting, you can use Microsoft Forms to get feedback on that meeting. It's pretty easy. I use it all the time. Microsoft List, that's just tracking information, organizing work. It's not as heavyweight as those other ones, but it's a little more. You can track information, you can organize your work, you can use it in teams, and you can use it to collaborate with other members of your teams, things like that. And then you have the Microsoft To Do, which is more personalized. It's for you. It's like a post-it note. Microsoft To Do is great, just task management, that kind of thing. You can put it in Outlook. It integrates with all that kind of stuff. It's more individual. So remember those: To Do, List, Forms, Bookings, Planner, and Project. Let's go. All right, Microsoft Defender. Microsoft Defender is on the MS900 exam. So remember, Defender is not just the antivirus that you see that comes with, your Windows 11, yada, yada, yada. Microsoft Defender is this umbrella name for all of Microsoft security solutions. So it could be endpoint protection. It could be email security. It could be identity protection. So it covers all those things, and there are different kinds of Defender for each of those. So for the MS900 exam, remember Defender for endpoint. That is like your Defender for different devices. Those devices could be, Windows, Mac device, an iOS device, an Android device. So it's Defender specifically for the device. They're going to ask you what kind of Defender you need to protect your, Windows desktop machine, your specific Windows desktop machine, or your specific, iOS device. That's Defender for endpoint. A Defender for Office 365. That's like your, that protects your Teams, your SharePoint, your OneDrive, those things. So remember, that's Defender for Office 365. Defender for identity. It protects your identity, so it monitors your It monitors your on-prem and cloud premises for, attacks, things like that. Detects, risky apps, risky users. That's your defender for identity. You have your defender for cloud apps. It used to be called, oh my God, something else. MCAS, that's what it used to be called. So yeah, that's defender for cloud apps. And so it looks over all your software as a service application, your SaaS apps, and again, enforces policies, and it detects risky users, all that type of stuff. So remember that it's a multi-layered type of it's a multi-layered brand. It is, it's identity, it's endpoint, it's emails, it's apps, it's data, it's all of that. That's all under that protection is all under when Microsoft Defender. So remember that, and remember again, these are not these are the extra features. This is at the higher points of the plan. So that's the business premium, the E5. Remember that you're not getting Defender if at those lower levels, the E1 or the standard plans. You remember that's when you get up to premium, the business premium, the E5. That's when you get Defender. So remember that for the exam. Let's go. Oh man, so Microsoft Purview, I swear, I didn't know, even working at Microsoft, I had never heard of Purview until I think I got to the SC900 exam. So anyway, Purview, think about it as it helps, it's for data governance and compliance. That's what Microsoft offers to help, different organizations around the globe, around their compliance to different regulations, different governing boards, in terms of how an organization, deals with data that it has about its users, things like that. So that's kind of how I think about it. So what can it do? It helps with data loss prevention, accidental sharing of data. I can think of examples like, in Teams, you accidentally type, some PII, private information in Teams, and, part of Purview will recognize what it is and, edit it out and things like that. So you can't share that even accidentally. It's not like, I'm meaning to do it, but it's just, normal talking, things like that. Some customer data might get shared. And so these are automatic, these data loss prevention policies and things that it can do. So prevents that accidental sharing of data. It can create policies that go across all the Microsoft suite of apps like Teams and SharePoint and OneDrive and email and all that kind of fancy stuff. It does. It helps you classify and label data. It helps you. It'll give you those. It'll give you like templates for different global regulatory bodies. So the GDPR, the HIPAA, here in the States. So it'll help you with these different governing bodies have different regulations that you must abide by, and Purview has different types of data compliance templates that you can use to make sure that your company or your organization is in compliance with those regulations. It can help you, e-discovery, find different documents that you need for legal stuff, through e-discovery and audits, things like that. And it helps you protect against insider risk management. You can do that. There's, can detect all sorts of risky user behavior. And, it may not necessarily be intentional risky behavior, but some of the stuff that we talk about in real life is accidentally typed out, and you shouldn't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? So Purview can help with this. And now, these Purview plans are a little different. You can get them not in the basic, but definitely in the premium, like the business premium, the E3, the E5, but there are different levels of it. So remember that, like, there's only the more basic stuff in the business premium. It's like you can get the data loss prevention and sensitivity labels in premium, and in E3 you can get DLP, the data loss prevention, e-discovery, and the audit, those compliance features, and then E5 you can get everything. So remember, Purview helps an organization meet those regulatory requirements, and it helps you control sensitive data so that your data isn't lost and there's some sort of breach and people are upset and mad. So if you can see a question about data loss prevention and keeping things, keeping an organization on track in terms of the regulatory compliance with how they keep track of their data, all that fancy stuff, that's Purview. Remember that for MS900. Let's go. All right, I'm going to talk about some more core apps that you're going to see on the MS900 exam. So Microsoft Teams, and everybody uses Teams now. It's how you collaborate. It's how you do virtual meetings, how you do in-person meetings sometimes. It's weird. So you can do calls, teamwork, all that kind of stuff. You have different channels for different conversations, different threads, all that stuff. That's Microsoft Teams. So one of the really cool things you think about the pandemic. So everybody said, you know what, Skype had this opportunity. Skype could have taken over. No, everybody was using Zoom, all that kind of stuff. Well, do you use Teams? You probably use Microsoft Teams. If you're using Teams, then you're using Skype. Skype got folded into Teams and all that. So it's just really this kind of mind trick that, Microsoft has done on you. You're actually using Skype. So Microsoft Exchange Online. Think about email. Think about calendaring. That's going to be Exchange. So anytime you see a question about email, all that kind of stuff, it's related to Exchange Online. So you have the Viva suite. Microsoft Viva. Think about Viva as employee engagement. You can do learning. You can do well-being. It's not a productivity app. It's an engagement app. Remember that. So you have Viva Connections, Viva Learning, Viva Insights, Viva Engage. So Viva Engage is social networking stuff. Viva Insights can tell you, that's your well-being analytics, how much time you're spending in meetings. You'll get notices like that in your Viva. Viva Learning, that's where you can do your training, things like that. Viva Connection is news and resources, all that. So you'll see questions like that on the exam. So connection, remember those: connection, learning, insights, engage. SharePoint Online, it's just remember that document management, collaboration, that's SharePoint. Remember, document management, collaboration, that's SharePoint. It's really integrated a lot with Teams and with Viva and all those kinds of things. OneDrive for business. So, just think about Google Drive. That's Microsoft OneDrive for business. Just OneDrive is Google Drive. Just think about it like that. And then Microsoft Stream, same thing. It is YouTube, but for a business. Remember that. So what can you do it with YouTube? Is this a thing that you do with YouTube? Then that's Microsoft Stream is the thing that you're going to use it for. So hope that makes sense. All right. Remember those: Stream, OneDrive, SharePoint, Viva Suite, Exchange Online, and Microsoft Team. All right, let's go. All right, the next big section you're going to see in this exam, the MS900 exam, is this. They want you to know the benefits of the cloud. So why should an organization move from on-prem to all their stuff being in the cloud? So again, they're trying to sell you on Microsoft and Azure. So they want you to be able to sell people to get them to move on-prem to the cloud. So they're going to want you to know about how you can be more productive and you can collaborate better through the cloud. So you got real time where you can work together. You know how you can co-author a document in Word or a spreadsheet or PowerPoint. They want you to know about scalability. That's really important. So that pay-as-you-go model. So you're turning it from that capital expenditure to a operational expenditure. So if you're not using it, then you don't have to pay for it, rather than you have to pay a whole bunch of money to start up a data center and all that fancy stuff. That's it, where they're trying to sell you. So you can scale up, and if you need more resources, you can get more resources pretty quickly in Azure, as opposed to you have to invest in 15 more servers and pay the upkeep and security for all that. So different type of options, different type of plans for depending on your needs. So there's flexibility, really important. Really want you to know this. So security, they know, like enterprise level security. The fancy stuff like we talked about in other videos, the conditional access and the MFA, multi-factor authentication. You want to be able to do that, encryption of your data at rest, all that kind of stuff. So the reliability and availability. So the SLA, you're going to see that a few times, service level agreement. So that's, Azure's guarantee, Microsoft's guarantee that their uptime in Azure is going to be at a certain level. You got 90, I've seen 99%, 99.5% SLAs, things like that. So global network, there's redundancies and all that kind of stuff in the cloud that you may not necessarily get on-prem. So and you can be mobile with this. So you can be mobile with cloud computing. So you can, hybrid workforces and, secure access, from anywhere on the planet, from any device. You get all your apps mobily, not just desktop. So you get all your Teams and your Office, your OneDrive, all that kind of stuff is, available on any device, anywhere. And it's really important. So they really push this idea of cost management. So, how much your costs are each month, rather than, maybe some weird server thing happens, some breakdown that you're going to have to now pay for, some natural disaster that you weren't expecting, something like that. So remember, remember productivity, remember scalability, flexibility, cost management, that reliability, that SLA stuff. You can be mobile, all those things, security and compliance, all those things are really important. The benefits of the cloud. They want you to sell that. Remember this for the MS900 exam. Let's go. All right, we're done. You're ready for MS900. Go in there and knock that exam out. Come back, let us know how you did. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, this exam is permanent. It doesn't expire, and it's going to get sunset in March 26. So get this exam eventually. You'll start to be the only few people who have this exam. So go ahead, get this, knock it out. It's pretty easy. You can do it. Tell us how you did. See you next time.